Okay. 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. Okay, that's loud. Excuse me. Okay, yeah, that is working. That's fine. Okay, so we're gonna get straight to it. Okay, so you can see my screen, which is cool. I'm gonna go into OBS for you, and then you'll be able to see what's going on. Right. So as I said, these are just basic instructions for streaming. I was just gonna go on my phone and do it off my computer, which is why I was saying you'd have had some really bad sound. But I just thought, okay, let me just do this properly, and then at least if you want to refer back to this to pick up some basic pointers, that's fine. Um, all right, so obviously I had to set up a scene. I call this Project K Dizzle, nicknamed after somebody who I know. And I've set up a screen which is currently showing the screen you're looking at as we speak. So you can see my screen as I see it now. It's a bit weird for me because I can see what you can see, but then I can see what I can see. I'm not even going to try and get into that. So basically, for setting up, this is just your basic orientation. What I normally do is you've obviously got your scenes option here, and you've got your sources option on the right, and you create your scenes, which are sort of your, um, yeah, we'll just use the word scenes, and within your sources you attach different things to that scene. So if you wanted to, you can create an, in fact, we'll do it. Let's do an intro scene. So you can do an introduction. If I can spell introduction, intro. Let me just turn the lights on the keyboard on. There we go. So call that intro, okay? And on the actual intro scene, what we want to do is we want to play a little video clip. Now, obviously, I don't have a video clip, but I know you do. And you can have anything made off Fiverr. Most people just go on Fiverr and they just ask people to make them 10, 15 quid. But yeah, if you wanted to add that intro clip, if you wanted, there is an option here for um, nope, it's media source. So you just hit the plus sign next to sources, and then you can say media source. Call it what you wanted, what you want to. So intro clip. And then once you've saved these, OBS will keep the stuff there indefinitely. So you just it just keeps it there for you. You don't have to do this every single time. So even if you're going into a brand new program, you'll always have scenes from things you've created from previous stuff, always sitting there. So if you ever wanted to go back to them, you can do. But yeah, name it, and then at least that way you know what it is. Hit OK, and then as you can see here, it'll ask you to browse for the actual file. So I'm pretty sure. Sorry, this mic is picking up everything because it's clipped onto my clothes. But I'm pretty sure. Um, I was told you're gonna get an actual the actual clip sent to you for the intro. So you just browse for it on your laptop once you've received it. And then you've got the ability to increase and decrease the speed, etc. I mean, I'll just leave everything at stock, to be honest, but if you feel that you want to change something later on, that's fine, you can do. um, and then yeah, once you've got your clip, you've seen it there, just hit OK. When you're ready to go live and you've hit live and you want the intro clip to play, you just come on here, bam, and you transition it across, and then obviously whatever they're seeing, and whilst the clip is going on, you've got your other scenes set up. So obviously the next scene you're going to need is you're going to need your main camera to be on point. So I've made a mistake there, and I've not named the scene. It's always good to name the scene so you know what you're going back to for next time. So you could say this is main camera, main cam. Hit OK, and then come over here, and then you want video capture device. I mean, these are really self-explanatory. You can look at these things, and even if you didn't know anything about how to use OBS, etc., you could actually look at this. And image is image. If you want to send an image to the screen, you know how people sometimes are doing a video, if you're watching TV, and then sometimes they just have a picture of something and someone's explaining, you know, what it is about that picture in the background. That's pretty much it. Image slideshow, if you have a slideshow. So there's quite a lot of different options here, but they're self-explanatory. But obviously in this case, you want to set up a camera. So you can say this is the main cam, and I assume this is the one that's going to be on the pulpit. So main cam, then hit OK. It's saying the name is already in use. Fair enough. Oh yeah, because I've called it. Okay, so let's just say main cam 1. Okay. Yeah, this thing is quite intuitive, so if you've used something before, to save you from confusing yourself, it knows. So there's the inbuilt one. Oh, I get it. Hang on. So right now it's only showing me the FaceTime one. So I'm just going to disconnect my fan and plug in a cam. Let's see if this actually can pick up something that's plugged in. Oh yeah, it can. Man, so you can actually plug a camera in halfway through. Okay, so I've plugged in the camera now, and I've selected it from my drop-down list. It's selected, and then just hit OK. And all of a sudden, there you go. You can see the window that leads to my kitchen, right there. Beautiful. Yeah. So once you've selected your main camera, now here's a cool thing about the sources. If you have multiple cameras and you want to put a camera within a camera, so say you wanted to show the congregation. What else do I have connected here? Oh yeah, I've got audio. Right, okay. Unfortunately, I left the power supply for my USB, my multi-USB extension, which allows me to plug multiple items in. I left that accidentally in your church, so I don't currently have it now, which means I can only work with one camera at a time because I only have one free USB port. Thank you, Apple. But long story short, if you wanted to, you just go ahead and go in and add another camera. Now, I'm not going to use the main camera that's facing me because I don't want this video to be about looking at me, though you can see a shadow of the back of my head in the screen somewhere around about there. And you can see my neighbor's house in the background. But yeah, ignore all of that. Yeah, so you can add your camera, you can add more than one camera, and what will happen is when you add the second camera, it'll overlap the first one, just like this. And what you'll need to do is, once you've clicked on one of the camera boxes, it'll highlight that box in red, and then you can move that box around as you please. You can make it bigger, smaller. There we go. So you can have one camera doing that, and then you can have another camera doing something else. So you can have multiple. I mean, if you had 5 cameras and you wanted to have one there, one showing something else, one showing something else, it's what you want to do with it, really. If you wanted to have, say, not even just a camera, if you wanted to say, okay, what you could do is if you wanted to have the main camera there, okay, so you've already created the scene, and this is for your main camera, but on top of your scene, on top of your camera, you want to add, say, a logo, for example. You can go to image, okay, hit image. I don't think I've got any images or logos in my laptop. This is something I'm yet to have made. But yeah, you can browse for an actual image. So I've just hit browse now, and yeah, I was hoping I had some sort of image in my device, but I don't really use my laptop for anything other than music, so it doesn't have images, and it doesn't really have anything on it other than software and live streaming stuff. But anyway, you can add your logo on there. You can then, once you've added it on there, you can then resize it to whatever you want to size it within the actual box itself. And all you do is you just highlight the item, it'll light up red, and then you change the size of the image and you change the position of the image, and you'll have that there. Um, Other things you're going to want to add are things like Bible verses, for example. Now, the thing I'll tell you about that is just have a, say, scripture. Have one already set up. So, scripture. I haven't even spelled that correctly. Scripture. I'm not used to typing on an Apple keyboard. They really annoy me. Um, okay, I've added that in the wrong place. Get rid of that. So main camera, and you can add here under sources, text. Then you can call that scripture. And that's spelled wrong again. Hit OK. And you see this text box here. What I would say to you is, let me just put. Now I have multiple screens set up. Sorry, click on that. At home, and on the, I'm sure you can see this HP laptop in the background. This is something I bought and I only ever used like once or twice, but I've pulled it out of the bag because I figured out that it's got HDMI on it, as well as a couple of USB ports, and it's now useful to me. So I found the charger and I'm going to use it now. But essentially, I can extend my screen views via the HDMI cable to a second screen, and that way I can run everything off the second screen and use the first one just for OBS, which is pretty cool. So what I would say is on the second screen, I don't know how you do it with a Mac if you've got the options, but on your second screen you could have that opened up, and you could have I don't know, the internet opened up, or you can have a Bible app opened up, and you can quickly just type in the scripture you want, John 3:16. I wouldn't recommend doing this off the internet, but yeah, John 3:16. Here it starts. Copy. So I'd always have that open, and then all you can do is you can, once you've got your scripture, you can come here and you can just hit the properties section, and it'll always, if you hit this button here, so if you select scripture and you hit that cog button there, that icon, it will always open up that text field, and you can literally just drop the scripture in and hit bam. Now obviously this is a lot bigger than we want it to be. So once you size that to the size that you want, for crying out loud. So I'm using the actual mouse pad rather than my mouse, because again I can't connect any further USB devices because I forgot my power at your church. But yeah, I think you get the picture. Size it the way you want it. You can make the text scroll, by the way, if you wanted to. And how you would do that is you would come to filters, scaling filter, sorry. And no, it's not scaling filter, it's filters. And then you'd come here to add a filter, and then you can say scroll. Click on OK. It's now going to ask you how you want it to scroll now. Obviously we don't want it to scroll vertically, sorry, we want it to scroll horizontally. And that determines the speed. And then just close that. And as you can see, it will transition it across, it will begin to scroll. Obviously, if I'd set the size correctly here, and I'd moved it to where I want it to be and set all the fonts correctly, which you can do, um, you can then put that on there as you want. But at the minute, I'm using the actual mouse pad, so it's a little bit difficult for me. But this is just like an overview. The general idea is you decide, envision in your mind how you want to have it set up. You don't even have to. I mean, if you wanted to, you wouldn't. You don't have to put the scripture on your main camera scene. You can have a scene just for scripture, and if you set that up just for scripture, so for example, yeah. So we go here, we add scripture. And obviously it's not going to let me use the same name because it told me off earlier on. So text. So I'm going to have to think of something. Script 1. Okay, and then type whatever you want. If you wanted to, you could pre-design what do you call it, slideshows or things in the background outside of OBS that things like welcome to church, or this is time for the word, blah blah blah. You can design these things and just bring them in as images, as display, as pictures, and it'll save you having to do a lot of stuff on the spot. Considering that this is going to be long term, if you decide to go with OBS, because I was telling Sister Udo, look, you guys might want to go with Vimeo or vMix, sorry, or whatever else is out there. You don't have to stick to OBS. I just use it because it suits my needs, and yeah, you can get a lot of support for OBS because it's so popular. If you get stuck with something, you can go on YouTube, you can go on Google, and you can get an answer straight away. As you're typing, I'm having this problem, you'll see that someone's already typed it, and you can just click on the actual thing they've typed. It's that popular, so that's why I've just sort of stuck to it, but it's not the best on the market, so to speak. So yeah, so you can have your script or scripture there as its own scene, and that way every single time there's scripture on the board, it doesn't have the camera in the background. You can put backgrounds behind these words, by the way, and all you do is let's go back to main cam. If you select that and you hit sorry, hang on. If you select if you right click in the area of the actual, so select it first, obviously this is the camera and this is the text. If you right click on the actual text after you've selected it and go into filters, this can be filters for your camera, this can be filters for your text. I'll show you that in a moment. You can do things like limit the height and the width. If you wanted to, you can hang on, let's have a look. I've not used all of these. Color key, crop image, render delay, aspect ratio, sharpen. What does sharpen do? Let's see what sharpen does. I'm gonna go all the way. Okay, so right, okay, so it makes the words a bit more bold looking. I guess it depends what's in there. But yeah, you can have your own scene for scriptures. Like I said before, all you need to do is hit that button there, that cog icon, and it'll always bring you to where you can dump whatever scripture you have, whether it's a Bible or a Bible verse, sorry, or whether it's an announcement. You can have a scene set up for announcements. For example, and on the actual scene itself, you can already have a blank text set up with the parameters already keyed in for scrolling, with the parameters already keyed in for color, and everything, and then it's just a case of going in and dumping the text. And I'll show you what I mean. So you can have free text, and then you just write emergency announcements that get made along the way. Hit that, and then just type a full stop in there, and hit OK, and then come here, and then what you can do is there's the full stop. What you can do is where you want to have your announcements on your screen, so you can bring that down to here. Obviously it's only got a full stop in there, so it's not letting me stretch it out because there's only one thing in there. So say I want my announcements to always appear there, or I want them to appear at the top so that they're more visible, and then leave that blank. And then what would happen is if you were on your main camera and you're screening and something happens, and you want to hit that emergency announcement, you just come here, click on that, click on the icon, and you could literally there and then just type up what you want. Or you can have a Word document with already pre-typed announcements. Can vehicle registration leave a gap, move your car, and then you just come in, and then when someone gives you the registration, you already have that there. Can parent of so and so do this? And you can have a little Word document somewhere that you have stored, where you can just sort of copy and paste these announcements. Please switch off your phones. And just paste them in, literally. So with regards to the settings, for example, for this, once you've got your thing set up, in fact, let's do it this way. You can come into here and go straight into filters, and then you can add a filter, and you can have scrolling added. I quite like the scrolling filter. Remember, it's the top one, and we moved it to about 50. One thing you're also going to want to do with this is something I learned when I was teaching a friend of mine in the States. When you have the scrolling on, after you finish writing your sentence, leave some spaces, and then hit OK. And then that way it leaves a gap at the end, and it's not all connected, so people know where the sentence is starting and where the sentence is ending. And then you just transition that across. Please switch off your phones. Or, please remember to pay your tithes. I don't know, whatever you want to put in there. But yeah, you can have. All I'm just trying to do is show you that you don't have to stick to one thing. If you're creative enough, you can create all this stuff in the background, and then you can always just throw it in there by either creating a whole new scene that in the future I'm going to need something to announce praise and worship, and whilst the choir walking onto the stage, it'll be a nice pretty background, and then once they're on there, transition to whichever camera I want to start with, and then it all looks like it's meant to be on television. So yeah, you can do it that way. You can have different backgrounds, but all you need to do is decide what you want to do going forward, and you'll make this up obviously as you go. By the time you're done, you'll have so many scenes in place. You'll be well loaded and well equipped, and you'll also have a lot of different sources under the different scenes that you can utilize and play with as and when you need to. But the options are there. The options are there for days, endless options for days. I'm just going to cancel that because I don't want to create a new scene. But yeah, the options are always there. One other thing I wanted to point out is, for example, with regards to, let me just transition this across here, and then go back to main cam here. So now you've got main cam and you've got all these sources, and you can see all these things on the right hand side here. This locks things in place so you don't accidentally move them out the way or delete them, and this actually removes the thing altogether. So if you accidentally do something and you don't want to see it anymore, or there's something about that you want to remove, just hit that close eye, and it'll just shut it off for you for good. So you could have transitioned that across. You can just do that, and you just want to have just the camera. And then what you can do is when you're ready, and you want to have the words back on, you can put them back on as and when you're ready, rather than sort of panicking and saying, oh, I've got words, do I delete them all of a sudden? And then you start end up removing them and you want to put them back on. You could literally say, okay, for my main scene, I've got scripture going, something's happened, I need to remove it temporarily, hit that, hit transition, and it's gone. One other thing I'd also tell you to do is, if you want, is you can set up shortcuts. Now there's a section here for hotkeys, and if you wanted to, for transition for example, if you wanted it to be Control Z every single time you want to transition something, you can have script and then do Control Z and it'll transition it across. You can have hotkeys. You can actually just make it Z, for example. You don't have to keep it as Control Z. That was just me being an IT. So I don't know why we complicate things in IT, but you can just have that as the letter Z. Hit OK, and then you could be over here on scripture. I think that's what we're on, and then just hit the letter Z, and it'll automatically transition it across for you. So this thing is fully customizable. Set it up the way you want it, and then whoever comes in next time, they can choose their own profile. You can set up profiles, and they can set up their OBS settings the way they want it, and you don't have to constantly. So you, I don't know, you can see it. You can set up profiles, so you can set up your own profile here and log in as you, and then once you're done, you can log out, and someone else can come and they can set up their own profile. So you don't have people deleting the stuff that you've already created, and etc. Like I said, the program itself is fully customizable. I can go back to main camera here and hit the letter Z. It'll automatically transition because I've already set up that key, and that key as a shortcut. And again, it's just under settings and under hotkeys, and you can see all of this. Start streaming, stop streaming. So if you're already on, you set up your screens, you don't want to be faffing around with clicking buttons, or you're on, just set up whatever you want to set up quickly, to quickly switch between cameras, or to switch a camera off and switch a new one on. Say for example you had 4 cameras set up on the left here. You can actually hotkey a camera to camera 1 on your keypad. The second camera can be camera 2, and the second you hit the button number 1 on your keyboard, it will automatically transition to camera 1 for you. So you can set up those kinds of commands on your keyboard as well. What else is cool for you to know? Okay, yeah, so for your video quality, Facebook will always limit you to 720p, regardless to how how fancy your camera is. So even if it's 1080, it'll limit you to 720. So when you're setting up your settings, obviously I set up my settings a long time ago, and I can go through it with you if you'd like, and you can set yours up the way I've set mine. But there's specific resolutions I've put in to ensure that when I'm streaming, I get the highest possible quality without lag and without any further issues. So you can go ahead and set all of this stuff up as well. Things like sample rate. The industry standard is actually 44.1 K, but this stuff I can show you how to set up whenever you're ready and you want to go through a full setup. But for now, look, I'm even changing things. Don't worry, I'm not going to save this. But for now, I think these are the most important things. If you know how to mess around with your scenes, you have visualized how you want it to be, then do that. Set up whatever sources you want. You can do that there as well, and then just make it your own, really. But I think I'm going to stop here now because I've rambled on too long. But yeah, that's pretty much where we're at. Yeah, let me know if you need anything further.